Here we see the eternal God who has no beginning and who has no end, who's the Alpha and the Omega, who's always been and always will be, condescending himself to what you and I know as time. It's at a particular point and time, that he manifests his presence there over the ark, almost limiting himself to time. But it's not only that, but it's also the omnipresent God. Like I said earlier, omnipresent means everywhere. That the omnipresent God, who is not constrained or limited to place and space, now condescends and he brings his presence to a particular place, the ark. He says, there I will meet with you. And when we wrap that together, we think of this great infinite God who is not bound by time or space, who is above all that exists, in a sense, limits himself for the sake of his people to meet with them. Brings his presence at a particular time and place together. And friend, the good news is, listen to me. He's also here today. His presence is in this place. And he's here in real time, right now. Specifically to meet with you and me. Are you ready for that? Meeting with him. I won't even call it a confrontation. God is not here to confrontate you. No. But he's here to meet with you. The question is, how does the Ark of the Covenant relate to us as born-again believers? Just as God's presence dwelt in the ark, God's presence now dwells in the lives of born-again believers. In the same way, up on the screen, 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 16. Do you not know that you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? Just like he dwelt above the cover of the ark between the cherubim in the times of Israel. God now dwells in the lives of his children. You are the temple of God. A major shift in terms of God's presence has taken place between the Old Testament and the New Testament. The ark was a physical box placed in the Holy of Holies, where God's Shekinah glory dwelt. But today the presence of God has moved from external to internal. Amen? From a box to you and me. There's been a paradigm shift from a box made by human hands to human vessels. Somewhere between the transition of the Old Testament to the New Testament, the Ark of the Covenant disappeared. Around about 20 years or so, when I was doing my essentials in medical at the Alert Hospital in Ethiopia, it was brought to my attention that the Ark of the Covenant is in one of the Coptic churches in Ethiopia. I didn't buy that. There's a lot of speculation today where the Ark might be. But we don't go by speculation. Amen? All we know is that the Ark of the Covenant has disappeared. No one knows where it is. But you know, as a preacher of the gospel, that doesn't bother me. Where the ark might be or not be, that the ark has disappeared, that's fine with me. And I tell you why it is fine. Because since Jesus arrived, the ark was no longer needed. Remember, the ark represented the presence of God, but when Jesus arrived, he presented the very presence of God himself. Because he came as Emmanuel, God with us. God with us. The ark held the tablets of stone where the law of God was written on. And that was one of the main contents inside the ark. There was two others, and I'm not going to get into that. The stones where the law of God was written on. But now look up on the screen at 2 Corinthians chapter 3 verse 3. And you show that you are a letter from Christ, delivered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. You see the paradigm shift. All to do with the presence of God. The ark no longer carries and represents God's presence in this world. Every believer does. Every believer is meant to carry God's presence and reflect it. Question we ask ourselves this morning, my brother and sister. How well do you and I host God's presence? Do you know that you are a host of God's presence? And not only how well do you and I host God's presence, how well do we reflect His presence in the world that we live? That was the only purpose of the ark. To host God's presence and to present it. The way God manifested His presence between the Old and the New Testament may be different. From an ark to the believer. And even though there may be a major difference of how God presented His presence or demonstrated His presence. But you know what? He is still the same God as He was then during the days of the ark and today. Same God of the Old Testament and the New Testament. But His presence still symbolizes His glory, His honor, His power, His majesty. In the Old Testament, where the ark was revered and honored, listen to this, blessings followed. I repeat, during the days of the ark, when God's presence was respected and revered, blessings followed. And where it was disrespected and honored, disaster struck. During the days of Israel's war, whenever they went into battle without the ark, they lost, they were defeated. But whenever the ark was brought into the battlefield, they won. They were victorious because the ark represented the presence of the God who says the battle is not yours, it's the Lord. I think of a man by the name who had the same first name as my father, Obed. My father was Obed Christie. The man I'm referring to is Obed Jochebed. And it says there in 2 Samuel chapter 6 and verse 11, and the ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed Edom, the Gittite, 3 months. And the Lord blessed Obed Edom and all his household. Here is a message on its own. How the presence of God can bring a paradigm shift, can transform, can be a game changer in our very homes, no matter the situation. If we allow God's presence into our homes and into our families without compromise, with the honor that it deserves, we too, like Obed Edom, will experience God's blessings like never before. That story goes on in Samuel, because it was David who was responsible for the welfare of the ark. He asked Obed to keep it there for a while. And when he saw how the blessings was running out of Obed's doors and windows and everywhere, he said, no, I'm taking this back. I'm taking it back. Get that presence back into your home. Get God's presence. There's a little saying in some people's homes that says something like this, and it speaks about the unseen guest in this home, referring to God. Friend, God does not want to be an unseen guest in your home. He wants to be a seen guest, a recognized guest. Amen. A guest that you and I are unashamed of. A guest that we revere and respect and honor. And friend, if God is given the rightful place in your life, in your home, in your family, in your workplace, in your community, or wherever, you will see the difference. That difference that you may be longing for. Maybe there's a woman here today, a lady, a sister, who said, Pastor, I thought this is about Women's Day today, Women's Month. You're supposed to be preaching about women. Well, I did not forget you. And what I want to say to every lady in this house this morning, and just make reference to one biblical example of a woman who was a carrier of God's presence. Mary, the mother of Jesus. Luke chapter 1 and verse 38. I am the Lord's servant, Mary said. Let it be unto me according to your word. Here was a simple woman. People probably didn't even notice her. But the Lord revealed a plan and purpose He had for her life. And it was very challenging for her when she heard this, because this could mean her marriage cancelled. She was engaged, getting ready to marry. But now there came a proposal from God. And if she accepts that proposal, it could mean her marriage to her loved one is gone. People is going to see this unmarried woman walking in the community pregnant. She may face shame. We know today it's no longer a shame for a 14, 16, 18-year-old married woman to walk in the road pregnant. We know it's no longer a shame for a child to sit in a grade 10, 11, 12 at school and still write exam while being pregnant. It's become acceptable in our day and time. It's become a norm, but I say not only a norm, it's an abnormal norm. But in Mary's day and time, it was not a norm. So it was of great concern, the proposal that came to her, but this was not a man proposal. It was not a human proposal. It was a God proposal. But her response was, in spite of everything she could face, Lord, humbly she said, let it be unto me according to what you have said. And the result, Mary miraculously carried the presence of God in her womb. Remember, we're talking about how the ark carried God's presence. How in the New Testament day and time that you and I are living, that the believers now carries God's presence. And we're seeing a perfect example here in Mary's response, in Mary's surrender to God. That it resulted in her carrying the presence of God in her womb. In other words, Mary became pregnant with the presence of God. But it was her choice. A choice that she had to make. And her choice was, let it be unto me according to your word. The result again, Mary literally birthed God into the world. What are you and I birthing into the world we live? She birthed God in the flesh into the world. Need I say more? Ladies, at the beginning of this Women's Month for 2026, thank you. But at the beginning of Women's Month 2026, like Mary, will you make your choice today to be a carrier of God's presence?